Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today's topic is OCs, and I just want to talk about a few key points. A few key points you should really think about and consider when creating your own OC. All right. So, what is an OC? Well, an OC is an original character. Original characters can be found in pretty much a lot of shows, especially fictional shows. For example, if you look at Marvel, basically every Marvel character except for Stan Lee cameos, may he rest in peace, are OCs. To mention but a few, the iconic ones being Spider-Man, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, there's Venom, there's freaking Thanos, and there's a lot of these characters that were created by an artist or a writer. Now, OCs are characters that you create through writing your own story, as I just said. OCs are your idea or your representation of a certain story through, said character. All right. Now, you may be wondering, it's easy to create an OC, right? Well, there's an easy side to it, and then there's the more complex side to it, or let me say there's a simple side to it, and then there is a complex side to it. Now, with your simple side of creating an OC, we get the visual aspects. We get what the character looks like, what your character wears or carries around, what your character is known to look like. For example, Spider-Man, we know he's an ordinary dude, but what makes Spider-Man besides his costume and his powers is what we get to the more complex side of things, the story. When you look at a character like Spider-Man, you basically have a very compelling storyline, no matter which timeline it is, that draws a huge audience to the character, and thus you have a fan favorite. Now, some OCs or some characters in every storyline will get a lot of, hate from the fans or audience. And that's just how it is. Not everybody's going to like certain characters, but then it all just depends on the writing of the character. Which brings me to my third point. By the way, for those of you that didn't know, yes, this is my third point. First, we talked about what an OC is, then we spoke about, what the two sides to an OC, an original character. We gave examples. Now, my third part is, how do you make an OC? How do you make an original character a good original character, a high quality one that draws an audience to your character? Well, first of all, we have to start with writing. You write a story on your character, all right? And you have to have a very compelling story, like I said, that draws your audience to the character, because the OC that you're making, be it the main character or be it a role character, is basically, a piece to a story, no matter how big. And so each piece has to have a good story, otherwise they have no relevance in the plot, in terms of the bigger picture. Man, I need to script these. Well, yes, as I was saying, you have a bad character with bad writing. And so how do you make sure that you have a, good character that doesn't have to be people's favorite, but then can be, a character that you can easily represent in, you know, uh, what do you call that again? Yeah, in stories, in the grand scheme of things. Your story doesn't have to be all that, your story doesn't have to be all, fireworks and, perfect, or your story doesn't have to be the most touching or emotional. Your story just basically has to catch people's attention in the sense that they can relate to it. Like Spider-Man, for example. Don't get me wrong, Spider-Man's not my favorite character. He's just a very good example of a good character with a great story. And when you look at Spider-Man, you can see that even though you can't relate to the fact that, he has spider abilities. He basically has, this superhuman strength. He can climb walls. He can do all that swingy stuff. And Spider-Man, I don't have to explain his abilities to you, even though he has those physical abilities. We can relate to him through his personality and through his story. And it doesn't have to be the most touching, like I said. By the way, I don't know which Spider-Man you've watched or which Spider-Man is your favorite, but I can tell you that each of them, no matter the origin or no matter, the characters around them and what goes on around these characters, you can see that there is a pattern. Basically, Spider-Man is somebody that you can relate to emotionally. And even though he has these superhuman abilities, he's able to get through it because of his mindset and, it's heart, and all that. So I'm not saying that your OC has to be relatable like we do to Spider-Man. You basically have to create a story that compels people to, relate to your OC more, or relate to what goes on with your character, and in that way people find a way to love the character that you create. Okay, we're almost done here. Why do we make original characters? Well, we make original characters because when you're writing your own story, you have to make your own characters. Damn it, okay? You cannot, just rip people off and, put Spider-Man in your freaking story because it's going to get copyright claimed, and your story is basically gonna get, thrown in the trash. I digress. Okay. It is important to make your own characters. One, because that just proves that you're good at not only building worlds in the stories that you write, but also bringing characters to life. If you can create your own character out of nothing and basically write a good story about them and the world that they're in and what happens with that character, then that actually draws people to your stories more, and in future would be interested to see what kind of stories that you create. At least that's from my standpoint. I've created so many original characters. I've created so many of them, but then the reason why not even I love them so much is because I couldn't seem to find the right kind of story to put behind that character. And no matter how cool your character looks, no matter how flashy or how elegant they look or appear to be. It's all about the writing. And OCs are not only characters that we see in comic books or in movies. We also see them in series. For example, Game of Thrones, a lot of OCs there. We see them in series like freaking non-fictional series. I don't really know. I don't watch a lot of series. I I watch a lot of anime, so I wouldn't know. Yeah, Game of Thrones, The Witcher, those are fictional. But you see, there's OCs there, and we're compelled by. Game of Thrones was trash. Let's just be honest. I'm not even gonna hold you if you hated it. But yes, you could see how attached we get to certain characters in certain shows, and it's because of good writing. Now, what makes our OCs unique? It's basically how you interpret them. Okay, you can have an OC with the same kind of background story as another OC, or basically a different kind of storyline, but with the same themes, or with the same I need to script these stops and pausing as I'm talking is not working out. Yes, basically you can have an OC, but what if their story, what if somebody has seen that before, and basically that's your OC is no longer unique besides what they look like physically. And so I'd say how you would be able to make your OC unique is basically to ensure that how you interpret the character is, make it your own way of interpreting. Don't, you could watch how other characters are written, you can watch how other shows are written or books, and you can make studies and try and come up with your own idea. But at the end of the day, you have to, like I said, make an original character, which means that it has to be unique, it has to be your style done your way. And creating an OC at the end of the day isn't difficult. It just depends on whether you're willing to write an actual good story for that character, or if you just want to make OCs, for fun, just, maybe for, video games, or maybe you want to make OCs for, short comics or whatever that don't have any deep stories with, actual depth. There I go, repeating myself. You can go ahead, but if you want to make a character that people will be able to relate to, characters like Naruto, characters like Guts from Berserk, characters like Ichigo, like Goku, you basically have to get deep in your bag for that one. And so that brings us to the end of this very, very long discussion about OCs. Yeah. So to my 3 viewers, 6 viewers, I don't know, 5 or whatever, I just want to let y'all know that I'm going off like for a while, because there's a lot of shit to be done, and I need to study. So I will most likely be seeing y'all back on YouTube in about a month or two. So deuces.